In 2021 and 2022, with support from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, Glasgow Building Preservation Trust produced My Historic Neighbourhood, a programme of creative heritage activities. The project was delivered in partnership with several local organisations and celebrated the heritage on the doorsteps of communities around Glasgow. We marked the 100th anniversary of the Barras market in Calton, discovered world-class heritage in Govan, investigated the radical wars in Sighthill, and charted Glasgow's long-standing love affair with roller skating. We worked with children and young people and older members of the community on a range of activities from story gathering, filmmaking, dramatic performance, creative writing, public art and roller skating. Our aim was to spotlight some of the people, places and stories that are sometimes forgotten from Glasgow's heritage in fun, educational experiences that would reach new audiences and create opportunities for people to build knowledge, skills and civic pride. In 1921, the story goes, an astute businesswoman by the name of Maggie McIver created a safe place for people to trade from their barrows in Calton, in the east end of Glasgow. Over the next 100 years, what started as a minimal outdoor trading post for a few locals would become the world-famous Barras market. More than a shopping centre, the market was a thriving entertainment hub, a meeting place, the beating, banter-filled heart of the Glaswegian community. The heyday of the market was the 50s right up to the 80s, with many famous traders setting up shop on these streets. We wanted to make sure that people's memories of the market were celebrated and preserved for generations to come. We held a memory gathering session with a heritage talk, trails and exhibitions here at the Pipe Factory in the heart of the Barras market. There were a couple of traders who came who were in their 90s, and it was amazing to see so many of these passionate people coming and telling these hilarious stories.
He sold a bit of curtain to a woman, you know, a terling curtain, and it had the elephants on it. And she came back the next week and she said, "See that curtain you sold me, the elephants, they're upside down." He says, "Ah, you got the Australian version."
People shared some of the calls that the traders used to shout. One of them was, "Horrible, terrible, awful, tragedy." That was shouted by a newspaper salesman trying to entice people to buy the evening news. And there were hundreds of these calls submitted, and we collated them and we took them to a community consultation so people could choose their favourites. The selected phrases were engraved into the pavements around the market and unveiled at a special event with over 100 people in attendance.
Since I was a child, I came here every Sunday without fail, my granny. And I've come here ever since, you know, and it's just all life is here. I remember it so well, and I marked different parts of my life with the Barras. You know, it's where I bought my first single, it's where I had so many life experiences. Some of them I can't tell you. It's just an amazing, vibrant place, and I just think it's important that we remember it, you know.
Hurry, Mrs. Murray.
My Aunt Josephine had a stall here from the 60s onwards, so she's been one of the longest traders in the Barras. When my aunt found out about the quote going to be on the pavement, she was absolutely delighted. She was quite shocked actually, but she was very delighted.
Every city has its great market.
Projects like this are so important because they connect the past to the present. It connects people that have come and gone over the years with the people that live here and work here now. And there's so many people in Glasgow that have connections to the Barras. Either they bought things here, their family were traders here, they've got a really rich, close connection to it. So to keep that going, you need to mark it, you need to celebrate it, you need to remind people what the value is in those historical connections.
In partnership with the Citizen Theatre and What's-Her-Face Theatre Company, we worked with We Are Six ensemble of young people and 4 members of the local community on a film project.
You know, who's wanting a hot donut? Me?
Mind the lock fine.
That was in London Road, facing the Barras.
Mussels. The Barras smelty mussels. That and damp.
I met a group of women who told me stories about the Barras, and it was amazing. So we sat round and recorded them, and then we met up with the Citizens Theatre and the theatre group, and started working with scripts and adapting the scripts. And then we came to the Pipe Factory and recorded it.
So everybody knows about the snake oil man.
Aye, he stood in the corner on Moncur Street.
So he stood at the corner just as the Barras started. He was part of the Barras, and everybody knew to go to him if you had a sore bit or corn or anything. He could give you what would cure it, you know.
He was like a magic man. He was so genuine looking.
Well, for me, what worked well was the connection between the young and the older generation. And they were really, when they were laughing about, you know, what some of the older women were saying when we transcribed it, they couldn't believe half the stuff that went on, you know. But also to see the actors, the young actors flourish and get confident. And they'd never filmed before and get to experience a different form of acting. I think they got a lot out of it.
The project was based around the Barras celebrating their centenary year. It was an opportunity for the young people to learn about the Barras, the heritage of the Barras, and then create a sound art installation. The installation involved using soundscapes recorded by the young people. So this was a really great opportunity for the young people to learn skills that they didn't previously have knowledge of. So one of the main skills they learned was using field recorders, how to capture good sound recording, the problems that arise from that, i.e. wind, different things that can interfere with sound recordings. Also, they learned about how to be really critical about sound. I introduced the young people to microcontrollers and coding and taught them about physical computing, and we used solenoids to create a sculpture out of different objects bought at the Barras. Solenoids are little pins that hit things, so we managed to program these little pins to hit these objects and create a kind of rhythmical soundscape.
Long before it came to prominence in connection with shipbuilding, Govan was at the heart of the major political, religious and artistic hub of Strathclyde, a Celtic kingdom that flourished during the 9th to the 11th centuries. Archaeological evidence indicates an even earlier origin, with a Christian community present in Govan by the 6th century. The most impressive evidence of this early period of greatness is a large and diverse collection of sculpture known as the Govan stones.
We had been chatting for a long time about how we could encourage people to think more about Govan's heritage and help us get the word out about this astonishing story of this place that has a terrible reputation a lot of the time. The volunteers came up with the idea of, could Govan Old ever have World Heritage status? We thought, if we're going to explore that, why not do it with the community? So we approached Glasgow Building Preservation Trust, and they were brilliantly supportive and helped us get in touch with filmmakers, people from the world of drama, and we approached 3 local groups: Primary 5 St Saviour's, Primary 5 Riverside and Loop Theatre.
We are a physical theatre company, so we are about devising live theatre, and it can often be quite play and game based. But we also use stimulus, and it's been amazing on this project that we've been able to link up with Govan Old, who have been able to give us some live stimulus and some props and some costume, but also giving us like a whole holistic experience of the last 1,000 years in Govan, working with some amazing co-facilitators and historians.
I'm from Govan. I live in Govan, and I didn't know about the history of the Vikings, and I've been telling my support worker and all them about it, and all my friends.
For all of the groups, it's handy because they come from Govan. They've taken ownership of this place. They know it's open 1 till 4, and they're dragging as many people in as they possibly can. What I'm seeing with my own eyes and hearing with my own ears, I know that these kids and Loop Theatre are going to be coming back and getting involved in lots of projects in future. So to me, that's a win.
The Martyrs' Monument in Sighthill Cemetery was erected to commemorate the 1820 Scottish uprising and the executed radicals Andrew Hardy and John Baird, who lie beneath. While many of their demands, such as fair pay, better working conditions and universal male suffrage are now taken for granted, the radical movement laid the foundations for the modern labour movement and working class rights. We partnered with Culture Junction to deliver workshops to 4 schools around the Sighthill monument.
So we learned about what happened in the Radical Wars, and we learned that it was actually in Glasgow.
I learned about how people got half of their money and they had to still work their time.
I've never noticed that a place that we live in was actual where wars have been.
People got killed because they wanted to get treated fairly.
The workshop made me want to learn what Sighthill looked like back in the days and what events will happen.
This type of project is really important, especially in this time of where we are in the world. Inspired by Greta and post-COP26, people are realising that they have a voice to be heard, and if we're going to work with young people, the one thing we want to do is increase their confidence, their self-esteem, and let them know that they have a right to speak out.
To you, Andrew Hardy and John Bird.
It's about getting confident individuals who can go into Scotland, knowing what's happened in their history of the local area, but being confident about who they are, what they think is right or wrong, and what change they want to make.
In the late 19th and early 20th century, the role of women was firmly in the domestic sphere, and young women spent much of their time preparing for family life. As the early 1900s craze in roller skating swept the nation, photographs show how some young women had taken to the rink, a radical departure from the social norms and sanctioned activities associated with this period. During the COVID-19 pandemic, roller skating enjoyed another craze with people searching for outdoor activities. We worked with a local collective called People Skate Glasgow to spread the word about Glasgow's surprisingly rich heritage of roller skating through a short film and a series of digital resources.
I was surprised to learn that there's such a long history of it. I think you were telling me earlier that the first rink in Glasgow was in 1870 something. Yeah, I had no idea that it had such a storied history.
And I was quite surprised to hear of some powerful women that dominated it, which was quite nice.
We're doing something that so many people before us have done, and we get to be connected with them just by putting on our skates.
Maybe we are connected to it because we're a part of it now. Yeah, so going forward, we'll be part of the heritage in years to come.
The project culminated in the return of roller skating to the Barras Ballroom for the first time since the 1980s, with a film screening and a skate party. GBPT's partnership with Glasgow City Council Education Department has been key for this project, connecting us with schools across the city. We also collaborated closely with the Council on the creation of a new resource portal, which is available through the Glasgow Doors Open Days Festival website. The portal collates digital resources, from films to maps and digital trails. Hundreds of heritage stories are now accessible online.
And that portal will have huge implications for staff, for children, young people, and obviously families as well. So in Glasgow, one of the things that we really believe in is that learning and education is not about the 4 walls of a school. It's about what's in that community, the wider community, and globally. And it's only by reaching out and working together in partnership and alliance that we can bring all of those rich resources to our young people.
We learned many lessons delivering My Historic Neighbourhood about the value of sustained engagement and the kinds of activities which make for memorable, impactful experiences. The main takeaway is the huge appetite for projects which centre local stories, using heritage to engage and inspire.